Hello, I'm Skip Alzheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime Streaming Show, where I'm noticing that it's very sunny outside. I have a window here that I have my assistant put some, it looks like Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars characters on the drapes. So normally it does a good job of blocking the harsh sun, but it must be really bright and gross outside. So hey, thank you, Mitch, for the coffee right off the bat. If you like AV Geeks, you can support AV Geeks by going to buymeacoffee.com/AVGeeks. And so I'm Skip Alzheimer, and we collect old 16mm films and show them to you. That last film, I think, was part of the Cornet collection that we've been scanning. And this one was like a master reel, but didn't have audio. So it was beautiful. It had never been run through a projector and was just pristine as far as the quality of the image. The color was a little off, but no sound. So let's see, what do we got? Let's go ahead and just watch something that's on the telecine, which is behind me. It's about squirrels. Or is it?
Squirrels are up. Squirrels are down. Squirrels live in the forest, and some live in town. Let's see the words that tell where the squirrels are. Squirrels are in the trees. And on the ground. Squirrels are up. Squirrels are down. Squirrels are in. Squirrels are out. And in and out. Squirrels are here. Squirrels are there. Where are the squirrels? They're everywhere. Words that tell where are called adverbials of place. What? Adverbials of place? Yes, adverbials of place tell where. Where are the squirrels? The squirrels are near the log. Beside the log. Under the log. And on the log. Can you find the adverbials of place in these sentences? Squirrels are up. Squirrels are down. Squirrels are outdoors. Squirrels run around. They climb on rocks. They eat on a log. They play in the park. Squirrels go inside. Squirrels go outside. Adverbials of place tell where. What? No, where. Now you tell where the squirrels are. Let's sing a song about adverbials of place.
Squirrels are up, squirrels are down, squirrels are in the trees, squirrels are on the ground. Where, oh where are the squirrels? Up and down, in the trees, on the ground. Words that tell where are adverbials of place. Adverbials of place. Squirrels are here, squirrels are there, squirrels are on the log, squirrels are everywhere. Where, oh where are the squirrels? Here and there, on the log, everywhere. Words that tell where are adverbials of place. Adverbials of place. Come on, let's all sing together. Squirrels are up, squirrels are down, squirrels are in the trees, squirrels are on the ground. Where, oh where are the squirrels? Up and down, in the trees, on the ground. Words that tell where are adverbials of place, adverbials of place. Squirrels are here, squirrels are there, squirrels are on the log, squirrels are everywhere. Where are the squirrels? Here and there, on the log, everywhere. Words that tell where are adverbials of place, adverbials of place, adverbials of place.
Yes, that will be one of the contenders for the toe tapping tournament 2022. That was so good. It makes me think. I wonder if Jim Burrows wrote it. Jim Burrows wrote all the Uncle Smileys, One Turkey, Two Turkey. He wrote a bunch of stuff for ACI and Ames and Learning Corporation, and so I just am wondering if he did this one. I don't know. All right. This next film is an art film, Dream of Wild Horses. beautiful and horrifying. Holy cow. I didn't remember the horses actually being on fire. I remember the smoke. I remember... It's been a while since I've seen this film. And I remember the slow motion, and the music was actually really beautiful and haunting. But, yeah, the horse that's running on fire is, yeah, not cool. And, you know, this is Europe, so there was no ASCAT, or Association for the Protection of Animals for Cruelty. I can't remember what it stands for, but this is back when they would have tripwires for horses that would break their legs and all sorts of things. So not a pleasant thing. So Alex, thank you for the coffee. It's very much appreciated. This footage doesn't have any horses in it, I don't think. It might have a squirrel, though. Here we go. Enjoy.
Egg making and in other life processes, plants, streams, rivers, and lakes, and these constitute our chief surface water supplies. About 1/3 soaks into the ground and becomes our underground water. Part of the rain is used up by dense forests, which require about 20 inches annually, while grasslands prevail where the rainfall is between 10 and 30 inches. A desert is a sign of meager rainfall. Life here is greatly restricted. Rainfall is unequally distributed, with the result that we find native forests in the west and east, grass in the central states, and sparse desert plants in the southwest. To exist, man requires a continuous supply of water. Springs furnish an accessible, though limited, source. Underground water may also be tapped by wells, such as this old dug well and sweep. Many large cities, some located here by dots, depend upon underground water tapped by modern wells. For other cities, surface water taken from rivers constitutes the only adequate and available source. Some cities take their water from nearby lakes. Surface waters are also made available to certain cities by impounding the headwaters of rivers by dams. America's largest city depends mainly on watersheds for its water supply. New York City needs 1 billion gallons of water daily, an amount about equal to the flow in this river. Wells and cisterns originally used became inadequate, and about a century ago the city started to develop the Croton watershed, 50 miles away. The water was carried by an aqueduct here crossing the Harlem River. The growth of the city soon necessitated additional water supplies. Then a watershed was utilized in the Catskill Mountains, 100 miles away. In this watershed, the runoff in streams is impounded by a dam with associated dikes and weirs to form a reservoir. Later, a second watershed was developed on the northern slope of the Catskills by constructing a dam to impound its water. From this reservoir, a tunnel 18 miles long passes under the dividing mountains and discharges its water into a creek, which flows into the reservoir on the south slope. From this Catskill system, water enters an aqueduct and continues on through this aqueduct for about 70 miles to an intermediate reservoir. Through the greater portion of this distance, the aqueduct is of cut and cover construction, about 17 feet in diameter. Grade tunnels carry the water through obstructing mountains. To underpass the majestic Hudson River, a pressure tunnel sinks 1,000 feet through the underlying rock. This enormous problem required extensive cooperative work by geologists, engineers, and other experts in tunnel construction. Cutting through solid rock hundreds of feet underground, as shown here, is only one of the many problems in constructing an aqueduct. Because of the difference in elevation, gravity provides sufficient pressure to transport the water from the Catskill reservoirs to the Kensico Intermediate Reservoir. The great bulk of this water remains in this reservoir for about 1 month. From here, it flows to a small equalizing reservoir, which takes care of hourly demand fluctuations. With increasing population and water consumption, New York City has been compelled to provide the Delaware system, consisting of 3 separate watersheds still farther away. This has necessitated the construction of a new aqueduct that finally connects with the original system. Represented here is the watershed system utilized by America's largest city. Just as important as an adequate water supply is a safe water supply. Municipal sewage treatment plants reduce pollution caused by sewage and industrial waste. Typhoid fever is one disease commonly carried by water. In one city, the installation of sand filters and the practice of chlorination was followed by a marked decrease in the number of typhoid fever cases. Until today, this disease is very rare where scientific controls are employed. The laboratory occupies a key position in safeguarding the city water supply. Water samples are collected daily. One test, known as a fermentation test, indicates the presence of contamination. Furthermore, the water is examined for microscopic organisms. Many of these organisms impart specific odors and tastes to the water. But certain bacteria cannot easily be detected under the microscope. Therefore, a measured amount of water is placed in a dish, and a sterilized culture medium is added and mixed. This is then placed in an incubator for 1 or 2 days. In this culture medium, each bacterium has now multiplied into a colony that is easily detected. These colonies can now be counted or examined under a microscope for identification. The water is also examined chemically for the presence of foreign substances that may affect its palatability or its use in industry and homes. The presence of ammonia nitrogen indicates organic decay and is determined by an elaborate test involving distillation. An indicator, whose intensity of tint is revealed in a colorimeter, gives a measure of the amount of oxygen in the original water sample. Most surface waters pick up fine particles of clay or soil, causing turbidity. This is tested with a candle at the bottom of a cylinder. The water sample is poured in until the turbidity obscures the light of the candle. When water stands quiescent for some time, as in a lake or reservoir, however, much of this suspended matter settles out. To speed up this settling process, alum is often added to the water. This forms a flaky precipitate which settles out, carrying with it much of the suspended material and bacteria. Since alum makes water acid and corrosive, lime is added to render the water slightly alkaline. Many cities use filter beds of sand to remove this solid matter. This sight well, 8 feet deep, indicates the clearness of the water after treatment. Cities more and more mix activated carbon to the water to remove color, odor, and taste. Aeration is another common method of removing odors and increasing palatability of drinking water. The final step in water treatment involves adding chlorine. This completes the sterilization by destroying all harmful bacteria and other organisms. In New York City, water already made pure and safe enters the city through 2 huge tunnels drilled through solid rock about 200 feet underground. Risers bring the water up near to the surface. The water flows from the risers to connecting mains, then into lateral street mains, and finally through service connections into each building on the street. The higher elevation at the reservoir causes water to flow into the city by gravity. However, some consumption points are higher than the source, and pumps must be used. Many high buildings have their own pumps to maintain a sufficient water pressure to the top floors. The water thus provided has many uses. It flows through thousands of safe drinking fountains. It is used in the cooking of many of our foods, in laundering our clothing, and in other ways. Water contributes to cleanliness and health. Water is used in generating steam for heating buildings. Water aids in defending the city's health by flushing our streets and by carrying away sewage. Clean water plays an important role in healthful recreation. Water also is an essential part of the composition of beautiful fountains. The control of destructive fires requires water, sometimes in great amounts. Water, without which man cannot live, must be supplied in abundance and with safety to assure healthful living in a modern city.
Oh, it looks like I was muted. Anyways, what did I say? Let's see. Water still being piped through pipes. This film is about, instead of steel, it's about copper. Enjoy.
Thousands of years ago, in Neolithic valleys of the Middle East, a new material began to replace flint and bone in the weapons, tools, and ornaments of an earlier age. More durable, more workable, it changed the course of human history.
جنيه.
لا ده بايظه.
90 جنيه
لا، لا،
قديمة.
لا.
لا ابدا.
90 جنيه كتير.
90.
ما انا عارف انها قديمه. خد.
لا والله.
Today, copper-bearing minerals like malachite, azurite, and turquoise are still sought and traded for their natural beauty, as they were long before ancient smiths discovered the metal could be won from rock by fire.
لا يا حبيبي لا.
By the time of the pharaohs, the mining and smelting of copper had become a thriving industry. A new age had dawned. A new science was emerging, metallurgy. By adding tin, bronze was produced, harder and more castable than copper alone, and so central to the rise of the first great civilizations, it gives that age its name. Here began a partnership between metal and the imagination, between copper and the inventive mind, that yielded new technologies, new tools and implements that forever transformed civilization. Industry and trade, science, agriculture, architecture, and art. Curiosity, ingenuity, technology. Little more than a century ago, copper again played a profound and central role in the birth of a new age, an age of electrical energy flowing through a vast and complex web of copper conductors. Copper, its value in every age based on unique combinations of properties that derive from its fundamental form. Copper is an element, number 29 in the atomic table. An atom of copper has a nucleus of 29 protons surrounded by 29 electrons, arranged in 4 shells or orbiting pathways. 14 atoms bound together by sharing electrons form a unit cell, which has all the properties of the metal. Unit cells joined by sharing atoms form crystals, and crystals packed tightly together become the metal, whose special properties have given rise to the countless ways it can be shaped and used. Copper is ductile, capable of being drawn or stretched without breaking. So ductile, a single pound can be drawn down to a wire 100 miles long. Copper is an excellent conductor of electricity. Its conductivity, its ductility, and its availability have made possible our extensive use of electrical energy in this age.
It's 3:29 for 1 minute.
5222. Oops, just a moment. Do you have an address on that?
We're sorry. You must first dial a 1 when calling
You are going to direct
Good
call
afternoon,
from your
City.
phone? 622-8013.
We have a Mark J on 5th
Bye.
Avenue. Okay, talk to you later.
In many ways, we have come to depend on the durability and reliability of copper, on its alloys of brass and bronze, and on the ability of these metals to resist corrosion. Copper is malleable, capable of being hammered, rolled, or stamped cold, as well as hot. Cold-working copper, in fact, hardens the metal as its atoms are compressed, increasing its strength. heated, it can be easily formed by pressure. The combination of malleability and corrosion resistance and its workability have made copper a hidden part of our daily routine, in a network of copper tubes and pipes, unnoticed, but essential to our way of life. Copper is also an excellent conductor of heat, a property of increasing importance in the development of energy technologies like solar collectors, most of which are a combination of heat transfer and plumbing systems. Copper combines easily with other metals, with zinc to make brass, with tin to make bronze, with nickel, silver, and steel to make alloys more durable, more castable, more corrosion resistant than copper alone. Alloys formed into shapes both useful and beautiful. From native copper nuggets picked up in some forgotten time, the search for copper led to minerals like malachite and azurite, more than 30% copper. By the turn of the century, the American West had become the major copper-producing region in the world. But high-grade ore bodies near the surface were soon gone, and to meet increasing demands, miners turned to leaner and leaner ores. 20%, 10%, 5% copper, cut from deep within the earth.
Line is dead, Cliff. 10-4, thank you.
Today, geologists search for clues of hidden mineral deposits with technologies made possible in part by the metal they seek, technologies like spectrometry and electromagnetic surveys. If the clues are promising, exploratory drilling begins, and the search goes underground. Thousands of feet of core samples are taken, analyzed, evaluated. The mineralization of the deposit determined, its boundaries delineated. The investment required to reach the deposit and its earnings potential are weighed against dozens of other factors: environmental studies, availability of water and power, and the social implications of mining and ore processing. The decision to mine is a calculated risk, taken to meet increasing needs at reasonable cost from ores that may now contain less than 1% copper. In this century, the primary source of new copper in the United States has been, and will continue to be, low-grade porphyry deposits in the American Southwest. Hard rock copper sulfide ore containing very little metal, as little as 0.4%. Today, rarely more than 1%. What makes these porphyry deposits economical to mine is their enormous size and uniformity, the potential for valuable byproducts such as gold and silver, and, when they're near the surface, massive, efficient, open-pit operations.
Fire!
Bench by bench, the pit expands, slowly consuming the ore body in a process that may take 50 years or more. recover 100 pounds of copper from a typical deposit, 30 tons of waste rock and overburden must be blasted loose and moved. Another 10 tons of ore mined. 80,000 pounds of rock to gain 100 pounds of metal. Open pit mining methods are economical when the ore body is relatively near the surface. But when the ore body is far below the surface, or copper occurs in a narrow vein running deep into the earth, mining goes underground. Far below the surface, a subterranean city evolves by careful design, a sophisticated support system for miners and machines. To reach the copper-bearing ore, a maze of drifts or access ways must be cut through hard rock. Many different mining methods are used underground. In some cases, ore is recovered by blasting and machine loading. In others, large blocks of ore are undercut, causing them to cave into collection chutes, which convey the broken ore by gravity to haulage levels below, where it is transferred to skips and hoisted to the surface. By whatever method mined, underground or open pit, copper is recovered from sulfide ores in a three-step process: concentration, smelting, and refining. Concentration begins by crushing the ore to reduce it to a workable size. Mixed with water, the crushed ore is ground to a powder in ball mills, huge drums loaded with steel balls, releasing tiny copper sulfide and iron sulfide particles. In a series of flotation cells injected with air, special additives coat these tiny particles, causing them to cling to the rising bubbles, forming a froth, which is skimmed off. The mineral-bearing froth, filtered and dried, is a concentrate of 20 to 30% copper, rich enough to be economically smelted. The waste rock or tailings remaining after flotation is pumped to thickeners. Here the solids settle out to be moved finally to tailings dams, often large remote areas set aside for permanent disposal. The water is recycled. If necessary, a chemical seal can be applied over the dams to prevent erosion and wind-blown dust, or they can be treated to encourage plant growth, stabilizing the surface. When copper occurs in oxide ores or copper sulfide ores are too low in grade to be economically concentrated, the metal can be recovered in a hydrometallurgical process known as leaching. Under controlled conditions, water is percolated through the sulfide ore. A chemical reaction causes an acid ferric sulfate solution to form. This, in turn, converts the copper sulfides to copper sulfate, which leaches out and flows in solution to collecting ponds. When oxide ores are leached, a dilute sulfuric acid is usually added to the solution to dissolve the copper minerals. By washing the solution over scrap iron, an ionic exchange occurs, causing the iron to go into solution and the copper to precipitate out. The leached solution is recycled, and the copper, more than 70% pure, is sent to the smelter along with copper concentrate from the mill. The purpose of smelting is to break the chemical bonds between copper and the sulfur, iron, and other impurities in the concentrate. Charged into the furnace, into 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit, the concentrate melts and some of the sulfur burns off as sulfur dioxide gas. Unlike traditional reverberatory furnace systems, newer smelters capture this gas, as well as particulate matter. The captured sulfur dioxide is then transferred to an acid plant to be processed into commercial-grade sulfuric acid. In the smelter, some of the iron and other impurities in the concentrate separate after adding a flux of silica rock and rise to the surface in a slag, which is tapped off and discarded. Once again, the furnace is tapped, releasing a molten sulfide of copper and iron known as matte. Now, 30 to 60% copper, the matte is transferred to a converter furnace. In the converter, air is forced through the matte. Oxygen and more of the sulfur burn off as sulfur dioxide gas, also collected and sent to the acid plant. Silica rock is again added and combines with the remaining iron to form converter slag. This slag contains some copper and is skimmed off and reprocessed. Air is once more blown through the converter, this time oxidizing all but a small percentage of the remaining sulfur. From ore to concentrate, from concentrate to matte. Now copper, blister copper, 97% pure. One last furnace, the anode vessel. Here, air is again blown through the copper, oxidizing the rest of the sulfur. Reformed natural gas containing carbon monoxide and hydrogen is blown through, chemically reducing the oxidized copper, leaving it nearly oxygen-free. Copper, now more than 99% pure, is prepared for the final phase, refining, cast into shapes called anodes. In an electrolytic refinery, the copper is purified and small amounts of gold, silver, and other precious metals are recovered. The anodes are submerged in a solution of dilute sulfuric acid and copper sulfate. Thin starter sheets or cathodes of refined copper are interleaved with the anodes, carefully spaced to avoid short circuits. An electric current is applied, and the anode copper dissolves, migrating as copper ions through the solution to the cathodes, depositing as elemental copper. Valuable impurities, including gold and silver, sink to the bottom to be recovered later. In about 14 days, the cathodes are removed. 99 and 99/100% pure copper, the product of complex physical and chemical processes, ready to be drawn, hammered, rolled, extruded, alloyed, cast, to do the hundreds of jobs we take for granted every day. And in an age of new perspectives on the finite resources of the earth, the enduring quality of copper may be its greatest value. Nearly 1/3 of the 2 to 3 million tons of copper we use each year comes from recycled scrap, from mill scrap generated during fabrication, from obsolete or discarded copper products. A renewable resource, recycled at a fraction of the cost and energy needed to produce new copper from today's low-grade ores. Curiosity, ingenuity, technology. The future is being explored today. New secrets of the red metal learned, new uses discovered. And the partnership that began thousands of years ago between metal and the imagination, between copper and the inventive mind, continues.
So, doing some research, looks like that came out in 1981 through the Bureau of Mines, and soundtrack was pretty great. I liked the music. It was questionable at certain times. I'm like, really? Okay, you're going with that? Sure. Yeah, I ended up. So I got a bunch of films from Duncanville, Pennsylvania, which was kind of rural Pennsylvania. I'd say about an hour outside of Pittsburgh. It was a big collection of films, probably 3,000 in that collection, and there were a bunch of films about mining in there. I've also gotten other films from the Bureau of Mines here in Raleigh from NC State University, which also deal with mining. So I have a lot of films about mining and minerals and stuff like that. Unfortunately, only one about blasting cap safety, so I'm still actively looking for that. I know there's been requests for more blasting cap safety films beyond Don't Touch, but I'm still looking. Thanks everybody for tuning in today and indulging me in some of these films that took us our eyeballs all over the place and put us a little bit on edge, I think. Thank you, William, for the coffee. You can buy us coffee at buymeacoffee.com/avgeeks and reward us with slight vibrations to our nervous system thanks to caffeine. You can also go to avgeeks.com and see other films that we put online and buy DVDs there. And you can hit like or subscribe and just tell the world about AV Geeks and that you were like, hey, look at this, what this person's doing just for a little while. You might be interested. Thanks again, everybody. I will see you again tomorrow, being Thursday. Is that right? Yeah, Thursday, 1 o'clock. Everybody take care and have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.